I hope that you are well and also that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 5 English lesson on antonyms. We'll be doing our grade 5 English lesson on antonyms. And before we start with our lesson on antonyms, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts. And then grade 5. Once you select the subject of language arts, grade 5, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of antonyms. So today we're going to do antonyms. In our previous lesson, we did synonyms. And synonyms are words, it's like different words, but they have same meaning or they are similar in meaning, right? So those are synonyms, right? So in our previous lesson, we did synonyms. So today, we're going to be doing antonyms, right? And antonyms are basically words that has the opposite meaning to a specific word that will be mentioned, right? So we're first going to understand synonyms, right? Where these words with either the same meaning or similar meaning, and then also the opposite, which is also the opposite also of and then also the opposite of antonym, right? Because antonyms are actually opposites in meaning. And then we're going to find antonyms in context. So our chapter is antonyms. The subject is English language arts, grade 5, and our lessons that we're going to be focusing on today under the chapter of antonyms is understanding synonyms, which is also opposite of antonyms. Because remember, synonyms are words, different words, but same meaning or similar in meaning, whereas antonyms are opposite in meaning, right? Or words that has opposite meaning. And then we're also going to find antonyms in context, right? Where we're going to discuss antonyms a bit deeper, right? And that is more on its own. All right, so when it comes to understanding synonyms, right? We said synonyms are words with the same meaning or almost the same in meaning, right? For example, dad, dad and father, right? If we look at the word dad and father, some people call the dad dad, for example, or you call him father, right? However, you whether you call your dad dad or whether you call your dad father, right? The significant meaning of a dad or father is basically still the same, right? A dad is usually supposed to be the head of the house, our caregiver, right? Our protector, right? Somebody who is also, let's say, almost like the manager of our household, right? Someone we can look up to and so on, right? So that is the dad, right? Or father. So those are words either with the same meaning or almost the same meaning, right? So everybody has their own perception or own meaning of what a dad means, especially depending on the specific role that he plays within your life, right? But the role that he's supposed to play generally, right, is usually supposed to be the head of the house, somebody who protects us and so on, right? If we also look at another word, or let's say other words that have same meaning or almost the same meaning, then it is immediately and now, right? If you say that you want something immediately or you want to do something immediately, then it's the same as you saying that I want to do it now or I want it now, right? So immediately and now are also words you can either say with the same meaning or words with similar meaning to one another. Because you can either use the word immediately or you can use the word now. So there are, of course, more words, let's say synonyms, right? But for now, we're just going to be focusing on those two words, basically those two examples of synonyms, which is dad, father, can even be mom, mother, um, immediately now, right? And there's, of course, a few more words that are different words, same meaning or almost same meaning. Then we have antonyms, right? And antonyms are words with opposite meanings, right? Meaning that you have two different words, right? But the meanings are opposite. So, for example, we have a big and then we have little. And then you have old and you have young, right? Big is the opposite of little, or little is the opposite of big. The same with old, right? Old is the opposite of young, or not even young. Let's rather go with new, right? So old is the opposite of new, or new is the opposite of old, right? And then we, of course, have more words that are antonyms, right? Which are opposite in meaning, right? But antonyms, once again, are words that have opposite in meaning, and synonyms are words with the same meaning or almost the same meaning. And usually, if you, I'm not even sure if we have thesauruses, right? Because nowadays everything is digital. Because everything is digital. But if you find or you have a thesaurus, right, you will usually find antonyms within a thesaurus. Because antonyms are words with opposite meaning. So if you maybe have a thesaurus, in your thesaurus, they will have different words, right? Within a thesaurus, similar to a dictionary, but in the thesaurus, then they will have the words that are opposite in meaning, and they will also have the words with the same meaning, right? Or similar in meaning, right? To the specific word that you are looking for, and that you'll find within a thesaurus. And of course, like a thesaurus is similar to a dictionary, but of course, with a dictionary, you just find the meaning. Then, if we look at this picture over here, right? So once again, it says synonyms are words that have similar meaning, and antonyms are words that have opposite in meaning. And if we look at the few examples that we have over here, then we can say, if we look at the first one, words that are similar in meaning, right? You can either say someone is clever or you can say someone is smart, right? Because if you say someone is clever, you say someone is smart, it basically means the same thing, right? Scared or afraid, right? I'm scared of that. I'm afraid of going there, right? So scared and afraid are basically words with similar meaning. Then we have careful and cautious, right? These are also words, two different words, similar or same meaning. Someone being daring or bold, right? If you are daring, right, then it means that you are able to easily do something, right? It's like somebody would say that, um, what is the word? I'll come back to the word, but you are daring or you are bold, right? Um, then we have beautiful, somebody that's beautiful or attractive or pretty, right? So that basically gives us the same meaning of somebody that is pretty, beautiful, attractive. I had a thought or I had an idea, right? Generous, right? Being like giving and loving. Same with being kind, right? Somebody who's kind hearted is also somebody who loves giving, right? And then something that is maybe terrible can also be awful. And remember, we cannot say people are terrible. We would rather say things like paintings are terrible or awful, right? But let's not say people are. All right, so now that is words with similar or same meaning. Then we have antonyms. Then we have antonyms. And antonyms are words that have opposite meaning, right? Opposite meaning. So it means that if something is hard, right, or if it's not hard, then it's soft. So if it's not hard, then it's soft. Because the opposite of hard is soft, right? Something is not rough, then it is smooth. Something is not deep, like the ocean, then it's shallow, right? Like there in the front of the pool that we swim in. Something is not clean, then it is dirty. Something is not thick, then it's thin. Something is not cheap, then it is expensive, right? Because it's the opposite, right? If we don't agree, then we disagree with something because we are not agreeing, right? It's not always, it's never. So these are words that are opposite in meaning, right? And we call these words antonyms. And the words that have similar meaning, we call those synonyms. All right. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. So we are doing a lesson on A plus students.ca. So let's go to A plus students.ca. And we're going to the first lesson on understanding synonyms, opposite of antonyms. All right, so we said synonyms, right? Are words, like two different words, or it can be more than two words, right? But they have the same meaning or similar meaning, right? Or almost the same meaning. And if we are going to look at certain activities, right? So yeah, we have synonyms are words with the same meaning or almost the same meaning. And we made an example of dad, or we made an example of father. If we look at this activity, right, it says, which word is a synonym of far? the synonym of for. And if we look at two options, right? The synonym of for, is it distant or is it approach? The synonym of for, the same as for. Is it distant or is it approach? Synonym of for. And if we find the word that is similar or the same as for, right, then we can say something is in the distant, right? It is far. It's in the distant, not approach, right? So distant is the same as far. We need to find the word that is similar to bother, right? Bother. Is it pleasure or is it disturb? Bother. If someone bothers you, is that a pleasure? Is it the pleasure bothering someone or being bothered? Or are they disturbing you if you are being bothered? So, bothered. Words that are the same or similar in meaning to bother. Is it pleasure or is it disturb? And if we find the word that is similar to bother, we are going to say it is disturb. Because if someone is bothering you, it's the same as they are disturbing you. It's definitely not a pleasure if someone disturbs you or bothers you. Definitely not. Right? So the word that is similar or the same as bother is disturb. All right, so now we need to find the word that's as similar as mound. Mound. Is the word similar to mound plain or hill? Similar to mound. Is it plain or hill? And if we basically find the meaning of mound, right? Mound is, it's like a rounded mess. It's like above a surface. Let me get another word. It's like a large pile of something, right? It's like you see if somebody starts dumping things, right? And then it leaves like a whole pile of something, right? It's a pile of something, um, quantity of something, right? It's like a heap of something, if you can basically call it like that. So if it's like a heap of something, or a mound of something, or pile of something, right? Then we can basically say it is similar to a hill of something, right? So it's similar to a hill because a heap is high, right? They're not specifically talking about the heap of clothes, but I'm talking about, let's say, usually if people were to dump things, right, within a dump site, eventually the more you start dumping things, it becomes like hills, right, or heaps of quantity of stuff, whether it is things that they are recycling or just dirt or trash or stuff, right? So hill is the same as mound, not plain. So hill is the same as mound, not plain. All right, so now we're going on to our test. So we're going on to our test, right? So which word is a synonym of hard? Which word is similar or the same as hard? If something is hard, is it firm or is it very weak? Something is hard. Is it firm or it's very weak? We need to find the correct word that is the same as or similar to hard. So is it firm or is it weak? And if we find the word that is the same or the synonym of hard, then we can say it is firm, right? Because hard is literally the opposite of weak. Something is firm, it is hard, it is strong, right? So firm or hard. Which word is a synonym of sack? Sack. Is sack the same as contain or is sack the same as a bag? A sack. Is it the same as contain or the same as bag? So sack. And if we find the word that is similar or the same as sack, then we can say it is bag, right? Because a sack, it's like that brown bag thing that you usually basically put flour or stuff in, right? And it's similar to a bag, something that you put goods or things in. What is the same as or similar to incorrect? Incorrect. If something is incorrect, right? Does it mean it is wrong or does it mean it is difficult? Incorrect. Does it mean it's wrong or does it mean it is difficult? Incorrect. So if we find the word that is similar to incorrect, right? The same as, almost the same as incorrect, right? Then we can say it is wrong because if something is not correct, right? It's incorrect, it is wrong. And wrong is correct. We need to find the word that is the same as quick. What is the word that's the same as quick? A word that is the same as quick. Is it speedy or is it drowsy? So speedy or drowsy. Words that are the same as or similar to quick. So something that's quick, is it speedy or drowsy? And the words that is synonym as a synonym or the same as or similar to quick is speedy, right? So quick, hurry, speedy, right? And speedy is correct. We need to find the word that is a similar or the synonym of stop, to stop. Another word to stop, is it to quit or to advance? Stop, is stop the same as quit or advance? And if we find the word that is a synonym of stop, same as stop, similar to stop, and then it is to quit, right? Because if you're stopping, you're quitting, right? You're not continuing. And advance means you are moving on to the next, either the next grade, the next level, right? Whereas with stop, it's like we are quitting, we are not continuing, we're not advancing. So quit is correct. And which word is the synonym of thin? If someone is thin, are they broad? Or is they broad? Or are they skinny? Synonym of thin. Is thin broad? Or is thin skinny? The synonym or the same as or similar to thin. Is it skinny or broad? And if we find the words or the word that is similar to thin, right? And then we can say it is skinny. So someone is thin, we can say they're skinny. Or if someone is skinny, we can say that they are thin. Or slender. It's another word that is not there. All right, so now we're going on to finding antonyms in context. And we said antonyms are words with opposite meaning, right? So you'll have a specific word, and then antonyms are the word that is the opposite meaning of that specific word that you were looking for. So if we need to select the antonyms of the word in bold, right? Remember we said antonyms are words with the opposite meaning, right? It's not the same, but the meaning is opposite to whatever the specific meaning of that word is. It's not the same. Russell was fortunate to get a seat on the flight to Boston. Aunt Brittany was one of the unlucky ones who got stuck at the airport. So if we look at the sentence over here, right, we need to find the word within the second sentence that means similar, that's the opposite, sorry, of fortunate. So if Russell was fortunate to get a seat on the flight, right, it means that he was able to get a seat on the flight, right, to Boston. But here it says on Brittany was the unlucky ones who got stuck at the airport, right? Which means that unlucky is the opposite of fortunate. Because Russell was fortunate to get a seat and he eventually went to Boston, whereas on Brittany was unlucky and she did not get the seat on the flight and she was basically stuck at the airport. So which means that the opposite of fortunate is unlucky, right? Which means that the antonym of fortunate is unlucky, or the antonym of unlucky is fortunate. These two are opposite, right? All right, now we need to find the word that is opposite of float. Float. Objects will float if they are less dense than the liquid they are in. So objects will float if they are less dense than the liquid they are in. So float, we need to find the word that is the opposite of float. So objects will float if they are less dense than the liquid they are in. And if we look at the next sentence, we need to find the opposite word within this next sentence. However, when an object is denser than the liquid it's in, it will sink. So which means that if something does not float, and then it sinks, right? If something doesn't float, it sinks. So the opposite of float is to sink. Opposite, or we can say the antonym of float is to sink. These two words are opposite. It's either you are floating and you basically above water, or you're sinking and you're going underwater, right? The fisherman left the smooth water of the sheltered harbor. So the fisherman left the smooth water of the sheltered harbor. So smooth, what is the opposite of smooth? If something isn't smooth, then what is it? So if we look in the next sentence, remember we need to find our opposite in meaning here in the next sentence. It says, out on the open sea, rough waves tossed his boat back and forth. So rough waves toss his boat back and forth. So we need to find the opposite of smooth. So the fisherman left the smooth water of the sheltered harbor out on the open seas. Rough waves tossed his boat back and forth, which means that the opposite, or we can say the antonym of smooth is rough, or the antonyms of rough is smooth, because smooth is like a calming, right? If we are not talking about the fisherman and being on sea, right? It's like smooth is like a calming of the sea. Whereas rough, it the waves are crashing, it's tossing the boat back and forth, right? All right, so now we're going on to our test, right? We're going on to our test. So we need to find antonyms in context. And we need to select the antonyms of the word in bold. Ben was ashamed that he had scored so low on his last test. He studied harder for his next test and received a grade he was proud of. What is the opposite of ashamed? Is it proud or surprised? The opposite of ashamed. Is it something to be proud of or surprised? Ashamed. Look at the sentence. Look at the second sentence, right? We need to try and find that specific word that is, you need to find one of these two words in the second sentence. The second sentence is, he studied harder for his next test and he received a grade he was proud of. So, the opposite of ashamed. So, the opposite of ashamed, is it proud or is it surprise? And if we find the opposite of ashamed, we can say it is proud. Because if you're not ashamed, right, then it means that you are proud of something, right? You're not ashamed of yourself, you're actually proud of yourself. And proud is correct. A unicorn is an imaginary animal. So, imaginary. It looks like a real horse, but it has long, pointed horn on its forehead. So, a unicorn is an imaginary animal. It looks like a real horse, but it has long, pointed horn on his forehead. Imaginary. Imaginary. Is imaginary real? Or the opposite of imaginary real? Or is the opposite of imaginary fictional? So is the opposite of imaginary real or fictional? Look specifically at the second sentence. We will find the specific word, the opposite word within the second sentence. So the first sentence is, a unicorn is an imaginary animal. And the second sentence is, it looks like a real horse, but it has a long pointed horn on its forehead. And if we choose the word, right, the antonym that is opposite to imaginary, we can say it's real, right? Because remember, if something is not real, right, can't say it is fake or something. But most times, let's think of things that you imagine, right? It's in our minds, right? We're imagining it, and it is not real, right? So which means that the opposite of imagine is real. So real is the opposite of imaginary. So well done. Real is correct. Russell was fortunate to get a seat on the flight to Boston. Aunt Brittany was one of the unlucky ones who got stuck at the airport. So we need to find the opposite of fortune or fortunate, sorry. So Russell was fortunate to get a seat on the flight to Boston. Aunt Brittany was the one who was unlucky and got stuck at the airport. So which means that the opposite of fortunate, if one is not fortunate, right, then it means that you are unlucky, right? So we were unlucky. Objects will float if they're less dense than the liquid they're in. However, when an object when an object is denser than the liquid it's in, it will sink. So if something does not float, does not stay above water, then what does it do? Does it sink or does it rise? Does it sink or rise? So objects will float if they're less dense than the liquid they're in. However, when an object is denser than the liquid it's in, it will sink. So if something does not float, if it does not stay above water, right, then it will sink. So it will sink. And sink is correct. So well done. The fisherman left the smooth water of the sheltered harbor, smooth water of the sheltered harbor. Out on the open seas, rough waves tossed his boat back and forth. Is it rough, which is the opposite of smooth, or is it calm? What is opposite of smooth? Is it rough or calm? And we can say the opposite of smooth is rough, right? And rough is correct. So well done. Rough is correct. All right, let's do the last one. Athens is one of the world's most ancient cities. Ancient, though it is famous for its historical museums, the city is also home to many new theaters, art galleries, and music halls. So ancient, right? Ancient is like it's old, right? Usually people talk about ancient stuff, then they talk about old stuff, right? So what is the opposite of ancient or opposite of old? Is it new or is it old? And the opposite of ancient, we can say it is new, right? Well done, guys. New is correct. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on antonyms, right? And we were understanding synonyms, and synonyms are words that are similar or the same meaning to the other. And then we also went over antonyms in context, right? And antonyms are words with opposite meaning, right? So we identified um, the antonyms of the word that was in bold, but we had to find the antonym within the second sentence, right? So remember that antonyms are words that's opposite in meaning, whereas synonyms are words that are similar in meaning. All right, so thank you, grade 5, for joining our class. I really hope that you had or you have a good day further. Goodbye.